You don't have to be a millennial to be socially savvy. We believe anyone can join Generation Social Media, and your journey starts now. This is the Generation Social Media Podcast by Chatterkick.
Welcome to Generation Social Media. Today I have Chris, who is one of our customer success specialists, and we are going to be talking about the background of Chatterkick and social media and some tips that you can use as you get started.
Beth, can you tell me just how did this all start? What was your experience before Chatterkick? What led to you starting this company?
So a little bit about my journey with social media. I think it's kind of an interesting one because, when you start a business, there's a little bit of luck and opportunity as well as some savviness in terms of understanding the market or an opportunity. And I definitely retrospectively can see that. In the moment I had no clue. But now I kind of was very fortunate in the fact that I came into my social media career at a very good point. One, because I'm about the same age as Mark Zuckerberg, so I had the opportunity to have Facebook as it was launching as a platform. It's funny because one of my first posts, you can go back on Facebook and see some of your first posts. It was my one of my best friends who actually works at Chatterkick now, Mary, and she was trying to get me on to the platform. And I think it was something like, I know you're going to love it, or something to that extent. And it's funny now and very ironic. But so when I was in college, I saw the potential. It was just for college students, and graduated from college in a public relations role. And kind of through my early career stages, I had the opportunity to work with the American Red Cross. And the Red Cross, especially at a national level at that time, remember, this is right when social media was becoming a thing for businesses.
So what year was this about?
It was about 2007-ish. Okay. I mean, I graduated college in 2005. So, Facebook was a thing and businesses were starting to adapt it. But a lot of the other platforms were very emerging in terms of a mainstream strategy for businesses. Yeah. And so I was working at a national level at the American Red Cross for the Advanced Public Affairs team. And I was kind of deployed on an opportunity a communications opportunity, and there was a string of hurricanes that was coming across the coast, and I was in DC kind of helping in the command center, and really saw the power of these tools to use real-time information to get messages out to people. So it was where shelter's at, we were communicating with the media, we were keeping everybody in the loop, we were using the different tools, and I kind of had this aha moment to realize this isn't just for the Red Cross. Think of what businesses could do with this, and think of what, I had worked at a bank and a credit union, think what they could do with these tools. And especially at that time, these were free tools. Right. And the opportunity to get the message out to tons and tons of people in a very effective and cost-efficient way was just so powerful. And so I came back to the Siouxland area where I was from originally, and decided to start working for our local Chamber of Commerce, which is a tri-state Chamber of Commerce. And my role was really to go out to businesses and ask how the chamber could help. And so I did that with a lot of our different businesses. I felt very connected to those individuals, the leaders of the business and the businesses themselves. And I saw two main problems. I kind of grouped these two things in my head because it was very similar across the board. One was, how can I get the word out about my business? They would ask me that all the time. Yeah. And although the chamber wasn't necessarily that wasn't the initial role and the main role of the Chamber of Commerce, but I felt like I could help them on behalf of the chamber. And, the chamber was supposed to be kind of that amplifier. Sure. And so I would tell them, you just need to set up a Facebook page, or your website's horrible. Don't pay for a fancy new website. Just do one on WordPress. And so I would kind of help advise them in that role. And then I also heard a lot about recruitment. I need employees. My manufacturing company, I'm not marketing, but I am marketing to my employees. And I thought, do the same thing, right? Go ahead, use Facebook, Twitter, all the different platforms, and I think the other common thread I saw was you got to be kind of fast at this stuff. You got to try, get ahead of the game. And so I was trying to do that on behalf of a lot of the businesses that I worked with. And it became a huge part of what I was doing at the chamber. So I was doing lunch and learns. We did a couple of social media events, which Gary Vaynerchuk actually was one of our speakers, which was awesome because now he's a huge figure in social media. But it was a really great opportunity for me to develop some expertise and really understand the platforms. And I always tell people I don't come from an agency background. I just happened to start a business that fell in that category. And I saw the difference with social as opposed to traditional advertising. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to build something that was different. And I understood, because I saw this mistake happen all the time when I was at the chamber. A lot of businesses in general, it's not just these businesses, it's businesses work in their business so deep, like they are the masters of their craft, that they forget to think about other things. And I really tried to tell myself, I'm going to try. In the beginning, you have to work in your business every day, all day. Like there's not a lot of options. But I wanted to make sure that I was looking at things in a bigger way, even if I wasn't doing the bigger things. I was trying to grow a business. And so I decided to kind of branch out of the chamber. I was going to start my own thing. I had my son, who was like a baby at the time, just a little bit over a year old. And I love my job at the chamber. It was a great job. And my husband kind of really encouraged me and said, you got to do this now. You got to do this now. And I was thinking, I have to do this now. I have a baby at home. And like, where are we going to get the money? Like, that was a big thing because
scary.
It was terrifying. And my husband was studying for his CPA exam. So it was lots of nights, and he was a accountant. So tax season basically disappeared.
Right.
And then I happened to find out that I was pregnant right after I quit my job. So I was sick you have little ones. I was sick for 28 weeks. And I quit. So I had to figure out a way to like launch this business and get it going fast. So I had a partner, and a partner in the business. And then I also had some really great team members that helped me out in the beginning. And I think one of the things I was able to do well was surround myself with people who were very strong in the things that I just naturally either didn't care about, didn't like, or had just direct weaknesses in. And so that really helped in the beginning. So we kind of put together our business plan really quickly, got a logo. People were very, very supportive. And I think that is a testament to just the community. Everybody helped out in so many different ways, whether it was my family, our friends, competitors. We had one of the agencies in town did our logo, just such great collaboration at that time. And it still is now. But I just felt very supported along that way. So that was kind of the path to starting.
Yeah. Getting started.
Yes.
And then so been around for 7 years or so. How have things like grown from when you first started there to where we are today? Like, what's that path been like?
So I think one of the differences obviously are the platforms. But if I go back and look at my notes from when I first started, I think our tagline, if you will, which was kind of funny because I really made it up quickly, was simple social online solutions. And although I don't love the tagline as of today, because we've kind of grown out of that, I do think that the key elements of what I was trying to convey then is the same thing that I'm trying to convey now, which is these are relationships. And the platforms are not the answer. The platforms are tools. And I think the simple part of that was don't overthink it, because the technology is one thing, and the technology is not simple anymore. Facebook ads are super complicated. Even the platforms themselves from a user perspective are not simple, but a relationship is simple. Mm-hmm. Meaningful interactions over time. And if you think of that with social media in mind, how do you create meaningful interactions over time? It doesn't matter if it's Instagram. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook. It's how do you develop those with a person to person, human to human, and that makes business work. We know that has been the tried and true method of business since the beginning of business was a thing.
For sure.
And I think that is even more so today because as consumers, we want to know. We don't trust corporations in many regards. We trust people. And so even if I, am eating a bag of chips, I still want to know so much information about the ingredients, who's making these, where it's made, how is it made. There's so much more that we crave and really demand to know as consumers. This has given those relationship businesses and really made all businesses relationship businesses. And I think that's really cool.
Well, I think even just to support those businesses, like if you're not providing that information, like say the chips example, if I'm not giving you the ingredients or where it's made, you're going to still ask that online and somebody else might have the answer and come around. So like people are going to get the answers, whether you give it to them or not, you might as well give it to them how you want it to be delivered, I guess. So what do you think of as like, what's the future? I mean, it's still the relationships, but how do you help people like you did, when you first started the business, it was like, I'm good at this. I can help people. That's why I'm starting this. How are you going to like continue to help people?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think, so Chatterkick's been around, more than 7 years. And I think my job in the beginning was, to schedule posts and to create the content and to write the content and to write the blogs. I do have some claim to fame blogs out there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If you want to know how to get fingernail polish out of carpet.
Great.
I did write that from the
Nice.
beginning, and I took the picture myself, and now it's 1 or 2 in Google Answers.
Oh,
so
okay. Very cool.
if anybody's interested, but I think my role really has changed from doing a lot of the actual day-to-day work to how do I find the right people that believe in the same thing I do. We have 22 employees at Chatterkick, and it's not about the skill set as much as everybody really needs to understand what we're doing as a company and why we're different. So having and finding those right people is a huge part of my day-to-day, as well as, I get to tell the story of our team and all the cool stuff that we're doing all of the time. And that's my favorite part because I'll see little bits and pieces that maybe mean something different to me than the client or even to the people that are working on the account. And I just have these really cool moments of like, wow, look at what we're able to do with this. This is a software, this is a data, and we can literally see how many times people are requesting business from Facebook in 180 franchises. Like it's just so awesome. And so I get to really tell that story, not only to clients, to prospective clients, but to people, all across the country. We get to have lots of interactions with those individuals.
Yeah, nice. So like knowing what you know now, if you could either start over or talk to yourself when you were starting the business, is there anything you would do differently, maybe to set yourself up differently or a different path you'd go down?
Yeah, I was having this conversation with my husband who started a business 2-3 years ago, I think, and we were having these conversations. And I definitely don't have a fear of failing, but I have a huge fear of regret. And so that really has been my motivator for starting businesses. And I never thought that I was a risk taker. I never would have said that that's who I was as a personality type, but I think I take those risks because I don't want to regret something. Not that I'll look bad or that I'll fail. Like that is part of, I've never had issues with that. Yeah. But so we were having this conversation, my husband and I, and I think the hardest thing about starting, and it's a regret, but I don't know if it's something that I would have changed. So when I was starting, I had babies. So my son was like 20 months old and I had a newborn, and my daughter Lola, I had a really complicated pregnancy with her. So it was really terrifying from 20 weeks until she was born. She was born 6 weeks early. She was in the NICU. And just, I didn't take a maternity leave. I got out of the NICU and I had a couple people helping me with like a week or so. And I was right back on my computer, wow. Being postpartum crazy woman. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have done that. But, and then I had my son who was a 2-year-old and needed everything. So those first 2 years of starting a business with babies were so crazy from a mind perspective that I don't remember a lot of my daughter's like when she was little, because it was so just like trying to get through the day, that I wish I was more present in the moment. And maybe I don't, because it was chaos, and I probably pushed that back to blocked it out because I had 2 kids crying and trying to get to emails, and my husband's, tax season. But my parents helped me a lot. My mom helped me a ton. But I do think that was a unique position that was one of the most challenging things that I've ever had to do. It wasn't the business side of it. It was trying to do the business side of it with little ones. And I mean, I was their mom. I couldn't just check out of that.
Yeah.
So that was tricky. And I think, to answer your question, one of the things I wish I would have been or done differently is just been more present in the moment. So I didn't kind of go so fast.
Sure.
And everybody tells you that at the time. I remember telling myself that at the time,
Right.
but it's hard to do when it's you.
Right. Actually implement it. And yeah, they say the days are long and the years are short.
Yep, exactly.
But I guess that's stress, though. I mean, it's probably giving you a lot of empathy for some of these business owners who are just sort of in this chaos and don't know what to do and sort of need help, I guess. So
yeah. And I think, I've done a lot with female entrepreneurs and just women starting businesses. And I think that is why I feel like I connect with them so much, because it's not that I have this huge like woman power unite, but it's that I understand that there are some challenges that you can't pass off just because you're a woman. Like I had to be the person that had the baby, right? Like
can't delegate that.
You can't delegate that. And there was a lot of that I was sick. I mean, I literally, and I'm a wuss when it comes to like nausea and like just being sick. And when you're so tired in the beginning stages of pregnancy, like it's just like a coma came over me, and, trying to get up, trying to do what I needed to do, when I just didn't feel good. And those first 6 months are so critical, and having all that extra, complication from my daughter and all of that, I think that was really challenging.
Do you feel like that maybe helped you like cut through some things though? Like if you had more time, maybe you would have complicated things or something. Like you're just like, I just got to get this done because I got to go lay down or something.
Yeah, it probably did, honestly. And I laugh because my daughter, the one that had a complicated pregnancy, she's a firecracker. Like she was an easy baby, like one of those babies that you never told anybody that they were easy babies, because you're like, is this a thing? Like,
don't brag.
Don't want to brag. Like she would just sit quietly, just like next to me on my computer and just watch me. And I knew someday she would make up for that. But she is a strong little cookie. And I think, maybe that helped her, because my kids know more about starting businesses and entrepreneurship than probably a lot of kids, because they've grown up in those dinner conversations about budgets and hiring and scaling and just all natural. That stuff. Yep.
Maybe that could be a whole separate podcast.
Yeah, right.
Entrepreneurial children, I guess, or raising kids, being a business owner. Yeah, cool. So we kind of talked about how, started 7 years ago, platforms are changing, but again, the relationships are still the same. But what are some things that you've seen? I know we can collect a lot more data now. What are some challenges that people are still dealing with, or things that maybe we thought were true, but now that we collect more, maybe we don't think those still stand?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences today, as opposed to when I started the company, is people know a lot more and they're better at the platforms, right? They're better users and they're better at businesses. And one thing that I see happen a lot is that with more information also comes more misinformation. And I have always said, even though I do this every single day, I still don't consider myself an expert, because there's so many times when you think one thing, the opposite is true. And so one of the ways that I have seen businesses approach this, that's probably not always the right way, is they get in their own minds, or they let small pieces of information that they feel or that they know drive their business decisions on social. For example, the people have a lot of misinformation about who uses what platform. when really we should look at the data on that. We shouldn't just say, well, my 18-year-old doesn't use Facebook, so there's no 18-year-olds on Facebook.
Sure.
Or I heard a news article about XYZ. Well, we don't always know that to be always the case, right? And, there's no men on Pinterest or all of these misinformations, or older people aren't on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And I think I had this epiphany at one time, and I was at a concert, and I can't remember who was the performer, but it was not a young person's concert. It was like a classic music, and probably ages 35 and up, primarily in the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And I remember looking up, how everybody's recording, or they have, their phones up. And I remember seeing all the Snapchat frames. Like, I saw the frames of people using Snapchat. And I realized we can't let the information that we think be the information that we know. And so that was really a big aha moment for me. And so one of the things on this podcast that we really want to help people understand is, let's really look at who's using these platforms, and let's take this as a personal basis and pick out people that we know, and let's look at their phone usage, because our phones tell us what we use, especially in the Screen Time app. So we thought that would be kind of fun at the end of each of these podcasts to pull up a example of a person and give you kind of their profile and talk about what platforms and apps they're using. Mm-hmm. So let's start there.
Nice.
Do you want to start with your connection?
Yeah. So this would be 24-year-old male in the agricultural space. He basically works for a farmer, has studied ag business, and is very busy. Probably works, 80, 90 hours a week, some weeks. And so maybe not, you would think, not a lot of time for social media, but still, when he sent me his usage, I guess if you want to dive in there, not a ton of platforms, but his biggest one, using Facebook. Then from there, Snapchat, and then Twitter, and then the rest are just, different apps on the phone. So again, he's not spread out a ton across different platforms, but definitely Facebook being the biggest one. Yeah,
so we're looking at a screen time usage that this gentleman sent you. And is he college educated? Did he go to college?
Yep.
And now works in the ag space. Mm-hmm. And he, if you look at this graph, just to kind of explain it visually, the Facebook is by far like double all the other platforms. And this is a small piece of time, but if you look at the different categories that this person is using, social networking is the largest, followed by reading and reference, and then productivity. And I think it's interesting, and we don't always realize that Facebook is not just for surfing your friends and family. Like, maybe he's using Facebook to get his news. I know in the ag space, a lot of those people are subscribed to the different commodities, or they have all of their, information pushed to them through Facebook.
Right.
And we see that all the time with young, agriculturally savvy men. Facebook seems to be a great platform of choice for them.
Yeah. I think the thing that jumps out to me, you think 24-year-old male or female, really, but there's Instagram is not on there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even, a couple seconds worth. So you would think that would be one of the biggest platforms for maybe a younger guy, but not even there.
Yeah. So. And the other thing that is consistent that we see is Twitter is still a player. It's different for businesses in terms of the strategies that they need to be looking at, but it definitely is where people are consuming information, especially men. And I see a lot of that in the ag space.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I guess, for those three platforms there, and maybe specifically
Facebook,
to him,
Snapchat, and Twitter?
Yeah, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, which one would be, I don't know, I guess, because Twitter's not so visual. I guess it is a little bit more, but are those maybe more for connections? Do you think he's connecting with peers, or is he connecting with businesses? I mean, how would you guess that he would be?
So my hypothesis, and then this again is just based on what I've seen. This isn't always just the data, but if I was to target a 24-year-old male in that field, college educated, I think I would probably pick those three platforms off the bat. Facebook is a great place because it's lower cost comparatively to some of the others. It's great for businesses to put ads on Facebook to tell their story. Make sure that the content's relevant, because he's probably wanting something funny or something newsworthy, or he is looking at his friends and family's information. And maybe he's using Messenger too. Sometimes, just depending on your phone settings, that it'll break it out or it will not. But that's one of the best places to reach that audience. Snapchat could be entertainment, looking at friends, but that's usually kind of the what you're going to be doing on, looking at on the weekends, or maybe it's a little bit more authentic and raw, and he's probably chatting or texting his friends back and forth. A lot of young people don't even have other people's cell phone numbers because they just get their Snapchat handles. So we do see that a lot. And then Twitter is really great for content that would be specific to either maybe he looks at the politics or sports, or maybe he's looking at like national information. I would be interested to know how much local content he's consuming from Twitter, because we don't always see that to be the case. Yeah. Great for big picture brands and, like I said, sports, or, specific accounts that people love to follow. But, if you are the local Burger King or, a local fast food restaurant, I don't know if that's the right play
Probably
for
not gonna
you.
Connect, yeah.
Right, with that audience.
Okay, I gotcha. So. Nice.
Thanks for sharing that information about that, one of your friends, I'm presuming. And we're going to try to do this at the end of each episode, really just to talk about strategy and how to reach different audiences on different platforms. But for now, I think we'll wrap this up, and throughout the rest of the season, we're going to look at different tactical things that businesses or individuals can do, as well as how social media relates to maybe some more timely or newsworthy information pieces. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciated our conversation today. Chris is one of our customer success specialists at Chatterkick. He makes sure all of our clients are taken care of, and he's going to be joining us on this podcast. So I think we had some really great dialogue today, and I look forward to continuing the podcast with you. We're going to talk about tools and tactics on how to reach certain individuals, and it's great to have that dialogue with somebody who is on our team.
Thank you.